refer to. There we go. We are on Noten Tam Leaf Gum, right? Right? Did I make that up? My correct. Um, just a couple things maybe before we dive in. I was going to do Shulchan Aruch today with. I didn't get a chance to have a chance because of my travels to watch the class yet. So I don't know how far you got. Did you get to the Shulchan Aruch at all, or no? No.
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 Good. We'll do some Shulchan Aruch with some Shach and Taz. Just I think they're good reviews. The ones I picked of some of the Rishonim. It's one of the things the Shach and the Taz do very nicely sometimes, right? Is they'll give you some of the Rishonim, some of the ideas behind things. But let's just a couple questions. First off, what's the origin of Noten Tam Leaf Gam? How do we know Noten Tam Leaf Gam Mutar? Eitan.
I think it's from the drash about Nevela, and you sort of give it to the ger, and so sort of it has to be something ra'ui for someone to be able to eat. And so if it's totally pagum, then it's not even a nevela. But then when you add it to a mixture, it sort of like makes it a little bit pagum. It makes the mixture sort of a little bit gross, where it's good enough to eat, but it still would be no tain tam leaf gum, and it's mutar.
Great.
That was the
Nice
technical
summary.
thing.
Yeah, right. If it is the Isur itself, and we'll get into majority, not majority, amounts and so forth with the Rashba and the Ran, but that it has to be completely disgusting, such that a person wouldn't eat it. It's not Ra'ui Lager. If it's in a mixture, if it's not, if it's the secondary thing, let's call it, then it just has to be bad. It doesn't have to be so disgusting someone wouldn't eat it. We'll see the Rashban has his own thing with majority that's kind of like that, and the Ran has his own thing about kind of, well, what does the Ran have? Someone give me what's the Ran's kind of interesting argument about this.
The
No,
Ran says that, oh, yeah, it says that the Midrash really has to do with Hana'ah more than anything else. And so, if, for example, Isser entered a dish and increased the overall volume, even if it contributed a negative flavor, but nonetheless there was a net gain in Hana'ah from the increased size, then it would be Asur.
yes, exactly. It's like it's kind.
Because you're still deriving Hana from the
Yeah.
addition of the Isser.
There's some graph that has on one axis has size, one axis has flavor or maybe bad flavor. Maybe we'll have it go the negative direction, and there's some line right out there. I don't know if it's a linear thing, if it's some sort of curve, and all the stuff that's um below the line which should be more negative flavor and less size increase would be mutar, and everything above the line be asur, depending on how you orient the graph. But right, something like that. There's some balance between those two things. Okay, good. That's the run. It's an important opinion. We'll see that come back. And what else did I want to ask about Noten Tam Leaf Gum? Oh yeah, I don't know if we covered this yet, but probably. Well, this will apply. First off, yeah. What's the origin? You kind of know him. You hinted at it. The origin, like Tanaitically, where do we see that we saw this?
There's a Mishnah. Is it in Avodah Zarah?
It
Yeah, it's
is
in
in
Avodah
Avodah.
Zarah. And
Yeah.
it's not so much, the Ran is really going back to it. Kol shebehanato benoten tam asur, kol shein behanato benoten tam mutar.
Exactly. Yes. That's exactly what I wanted. That's great. It's not the only place, right? But that Mishnah is important, and it kind of just seems to assume that, right? It has, in fact, that Mishnah, if you remember, has what example or somebody that the Beit Yosef gets
Chomet,
upset with the
chomet.
tour. Yeah,
Oh, I don't know. The example of the Mishnah is chometz and greasing, right?
yeah, and if I remember correctly, doesn't the tour he says yain and greasing, and the Beit Yosef means he means chomet shel yain. Well, I don't know why he lost that word there. So it's but I don't know if there was a printing issue or that was actually the tour's original language. But yeah, but it's chometz, it's vinegar, wine vinegar, and greasing is some sort of I don't know, grits, oatmeal. I don't know what they are. Right? Who knows? It's uh, but no, actually, I think they're actually.
The Mishnah says yain, no?
Does it say yain?
מעשה בביתוס בן זונן שהביא גרוגרות בספינה משתבחה חבית של יין נסך ונפל
Yeah,
So,
על
so
גביה.
there's Maase, and there that's yain, and then but later on when it says the klal, it just says at the very end of it,
That's
kegon kol
exactly. Yeah,
mitchenafara
yeah,
gab
yeah,
grisin.
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Kegon
okay.
Komet Shinafar Gabi Grisin.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, so the yayin was the Resha, but that's chometz in the Seifa of the Mishnah there. So yeah, but um, anyway, as a side, I've been saying this to every class this week. I was thinking about this. I was when I was reading the Beit Yosef there, I was like, I don't know, if this is a printer error in the Torah. Is what the Torah actually wrote. The Torah was actually an early printed book. But if you're interested in the printing, the history of early Jewish printing, by the way, Sfarim Chatter is two parts into, I think they're doing a four-part miniseries with Michelle Margolin, she's the Jewish Studies librarian at Columbia on the early Jewish printed book. People know I love Sfarim Chatter, and this is but it's really fascinating because she and Nachi Weinstein talk a little bit about how much what we learn today is influenced by what the printers decided to print and how they decided to print it and how they decided to format it. So and what edits they made. And when we know apparently, I think it was the Bomberg Press. We actually have a copy of the manuscript of the Yerushalmi they were working from, and we actually have their notes on how they were editing the Yerushalmi, apparently, and changing it to. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, that's all side note. But the same thing happens to the tour, of course, at times. All right. What else? The other thing I think just there are many places where Tom Bagum will become, someone calls you up and they say, accidentally dropped X into Y and, X wasn't kosher or I don't know, whatever it may be, or X was milk into meat. And you're like, well, yeah, but those two flavors are disgusting together, right? One place. But what's the main place that Tom Leaf Gum comes up, I think, in our daily lives?
Soap,
Sorry.
dishwashing detergent,
Oh, good. Well,
dishwashing.
we haven't done soap yet. We haven't done soap yet. But yeah, we'll do soap. I think the Shulchan Aruch does that in Basar B'Chalav. I don't think he does that here. I can't remember. Right? People know this huge Kiddush of the Shulchan Aruch, right? Where they talk about washing, milk and meat dishes together. Maybe there's also meat and milk on them, and in hot water, in boiling hot water, and or at least Yad water. And he says it seems to me, nearly, that if you add ash, which essentially was soap, that it makes everything pagum, and that's not a problem. And this is what leads to the whole interesting discussion around dishwashers and soap. That soap is maybe pogam everything, which I don't think is crazy, right? It's not so nuts to say that when if I put soap on your food, you're not going to eat it anymore. You're just not, that may even be like not even Ra'ui Lager anymore, right? If you really want to think about it that way. So, but that's what good, Josie. I wasn't thinking for that, but now that I went off on it, it is an important point. Soap becomes a major player in the modern world in that sense. So, and they had soap in their world too, or they had already in the Shulchan Aruch, maybe even earlier. So, what's the other thing though? Uh, what Tom is Pagum?
Like kalim, like an
Yeah,
Eno Ben Yomo.
yeah, Kalim. That's it. You didn't cover this in class? Did you not get to this yet, or not? You did,
We did.
right?
When you're
Yeah, right. What do we say about all kalim that are clean kalim? They're clean. They don't have schmutz on them, but right, they have absorbed. They have tam balua. What do we say about the tam balua and the kalim?
Pagum after May 8 or 24 hours or
Good,
maybe
good.
overnight.
Yeah, good. Whose opinion is overnight?
We alluded to this, but we didn't. Oh, I think it's Rashi, but like
No,
we
it
didn't
came in.
really go
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, it's a question of what Eno Ben Yomo is, right? Does Eno Ben Yomo mean the eight, which is what I believe Rabbeinu Tam rules, right? That's the which is 24-hour period. It becomes pagum. Rashi thinks is linat laila, right? That if it rests overnight, that's it. We don't paskin like Rashi, but that's like a huge sneef lehakel if you're adding it to something else, right? If you're adding to us like a second suffix or something like that, if you're following the correct rule of fix feka. So just to know that that's in. And what do we say? There's a one other thing that with kalim. If I find, you not find if like a stam kli, right, is what state? What can I assume about it?
it's neither milk nor meat nor a treif.
No, no, I know. I mean, like, even if I know it's a treif kli, what a stam kelim, a nam b'nei yoman, right? A stam kli, this is a Tosafot, is not, we assume has not been used in 24 hours, and therefore b'diavad, right? I want to emphasize the b'diavad, but b'diavad is not, well, it is not in Talmud Gam, period, but and therefore b'diavad is permissible to use, not l'chachila, but. That's going to be huge. That's this is the Noda Yehuda has a tshuva. He doesn't love it, if I remember correctly, but he has a tshuva about coffee shops. In their world, you don't have disposable cups in coffee shops. Maybe that was better. You had, they had cups like they do in some coffee shops today too. If you order in, and like kli cheres, and he permits people who are traveling to assume that these are inam ben yaman, and that you can use the kalim to drink hot coffee, right? So big kula there. So.
Didn't we have the concept of Ben Yomo before Leaf Gum? Like we're now sort of explaining, aren't we basically now giving a reason why something that's not Ben Yomo is mutter? But I think we already saw that concept. I mean, not that I know what the order is, but
Yeah, I think the
is
order is
this
the other
really
way.
the
I think
source, or is this sort of like confirming?
No, I think it's the source. I think it's the source because it challenges, that's what then challenges everything of like Midian, the clay Midian that they have to kasher. But wait a second, they're not Ben Yomo. Like what is it? Within the same day, right? So yeah, the Tom Leaf Gum is I think is the origin of it. But I mean, we have to look back. Maybe you could imagine, like from a more academic point of view, that really they just had the sense that Eno Ben Yomo. No, you know what? It's got to be because it comes down to the argument between Rashi and Tosfot again there, right? Is it Linat Laila or is it 24 hour, 8? So again, they're arguing about when does it become Pagum, right? But everyone agrees, I think that it's about Pigima, right? That it's about the flavor in the walls of the vessel goes bad after 24 hours.
But I
Rashi on
agree
this,
with.
yeah. I'm
Go ahead,
remembering
Ori.
that Rashi needs some clarification here because it sounded like, one second. It sounded like he was saying that Tom is weakened and diluted over time. And that's sort of like he flows right in from that into
Yeah.
Pagum.
It,
And I was a little bit
it,
lost in that because it's like,
I want to look. I haven't looked at Rashi recently, and I'm not a Talmid Chacham, so I don't know it by heart. And let me look back. But yeah, it's an interesting question. Noam, what do you have?
I was just gonna say, like, I agree with Ori in that it does feel like somewhat circular in certain cases. In that, for example, when Rashba is trying to prove the example about but then Tam Leaf Gam Stath, he like points to the example of Kli Sheno Ben Yomo as the source. So they kind of like mutually inform
That's
one
true.
another.
He does. Yes, he does. Uses that to prove that it doesn't be pagum completely, right? That's the Rashba. That's the one you're talking about, right? That it's,
Mhm.
yeah, right. His proof
and
that
the Ran, I
you know,
think, also alluded to it, right?
yes, yeah, they're the same. At the end of the day, the
Yeah,
Ron
the
and the
Ron
Rush,
also
right?
alluded to it.
Yeah, they're the same school too, right? Ron and Rashba at the end of the day. So they're both in the Nachmanidean school, right? That Spanish Christian school yeah, of thought. So even though they disagree here, although Rav Nachum has the theory that actually the Ran is a kind of clarification of the Rashba. The Beit Yosef thinks they disagree about that's on Tom we've gotten. But Noam, you got to look like maybe you disagree with me about that. That's
No, I no, I was just interested. To me, it
yeah,
seems like they disagree, but I'd be
yeah.
They
interested in seeing whether they agree.
they disagree in certain cases, right? That they're not necessarily majority of cases they probably agree. I think weren't we saying that the Rashbats in the case of majority, the threshold for overtaking this Tom Leaf Gum rule would be higher. It
Mhm.
would have to be a majority, right? And for the
Yeah.
Ron, the volume might already affect that way before you hit majority.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. The Iran might be an extension of in that sense of the Rashba of well, it's about because if it's clearly if it's the
Enough.
majority, it's well, what it clearly if it's the majority, it's not a tarovet anymore, right? Then it's the thing usually, but that's usually our threshold, right? When is it no longer a tarovet, right? When the thing is majority isur, it's not a tarovet, it's isur with some other stuff mixed in, right? A tarovet is heter with a little bit of isur mixed in. And usually, even if it's not enough to be batel, But and I really that's the way I
But
was thinking about. Yeah, go ahead, please.
it still tests this rule of notain tam nifgam in a meaningful way.
It
Even if what you're
does.
saying is just generally Torah Darobet, well, we were getting excited that this Lifgam thing was like sort of golden, right? Like no matter what, if it's Lifgam, oh, it's mutter. No, not once it's not a Tarobet.
Exactly. So then it has to be pagum legamre, right? Um, and I think the run is a nice extension of, look, well, if we're going to do this, it's not a function that it's not a step function, as we would say, right? Sometimes I think I'm only speaking to Josie here, but the rest of you guys get you get math. You're all mathematicians, right? Uh, yeah, and the run is like, no, it's a gradual curve, right? And the reason it's a gradual curve is because what happens is this is the way Rav Nachum was formulated is you know as you get less and less Easter edit, it's adding less and less volume, and therefore the pikima has to be less and less. But at some point, it adds enough volume that it becomes the majority, and somewhere in between there, that transition must be a slow transition and not just like an automatic drop off. Um, um, so it's kind of an extension of the Rashba in that sense.
Are
The way the
we
yeah.
I have a question about the idea of pigima versus some of the other things that you might have learned elsewhere about. Well, if I cook something sharp in it's chazor v'neor. So now I've got the stam pan, which is not ben yomo. But if it was meat and I start cooking onions in it, then my onions are now flashing, and I shouldn't put them on a dairy pizza or something like that.
Good, good. So we're going to get to this when we get to harifut, which is another topic. But harifut is there are things that the Gemara talks about. I can't think of the word in Aramaic right now that they use. It's mechalia.
A sefta? Or
No,
isn't there a sefta?
it's mechalia. I think it sweetens the flavor, and so there's an idea that sharp things we have to define what sharp things are. When something is majority sharp, or if you put it in first, as Josie was putting, then it will reawaken the pagum flavor to become not pagum potentially, and it will kind of like it's a kind of history reminder, right? It brings back the original flavor, and so that can be a problem. Yeah, so this is why if you go to a non-kosher restaurant and maybe you ask for a salad, assuming put about aside the bug checking things and all that kind of stuff, and you ask for a salad, right? You probably want to ask for no onions because they're going to cut it with their treif knife, and the onion can reawaken the flavor. And we'll talk about the duchta de sakina and when the onions even count for that when we get there. But as a side note, I did this once. I was on a work trip back when I was an engineer, and I was like in an airport with my coworkers, and I was hungry, so I asked for some salad greens or whatever, and I said no dressing, and they said to me. No, like we'll just bring you some dressing on the side just in case you want it. And I was wearing a kippah. So maybe they knew it. So they brought me, it was Ken's salad dressing, which is under, I think, the OU or whatever. It was in packets of Ken's, I said, oh, wow, this is great. This is really nice. So not that I trust the OU, but, like if I trusted the OU, I would eat it. It's a day like that today. I trust the OU for kashrut to some extent. So, okay. Uh, I shouldn't, but I do. I will move on. But yeah, this is the thing with onions. But so yeah, there are things that's like the anti-tom leaf gum, which is sharp things or spicy things. Good. Where did I want to go? I want to go. Any other questions before we jump into Shulchan Aruch? Get some sources here.
We didn't even
So I
really
want
read the Torah yet, just to be fair.
in class. That's fair. That's fair.
Right.
But I thought we could, as a group, we could read the Shulchan Aruch. I thought it might be get us ahead a little bit. But what part of what I want to do is see not only how he paskins, but some of the concepts the Shach and the Taz kind of bring, which will be stuff that we've already started to review. So let's do that. I'll read the Shulchan Aruch and maybe help with the other things. So Kuf Gimel Dino Tentan Levkam. It has 7 sifim. I'm hoping to do 3 today, maybe 4, but maybe that's ambitious, and maybe we'll do 1 or 2. Who knows? That's okay too. So, Kol davar shetamo pagum eino oser taruvuto ve'afilo ein tamo pagum machmat atzmo shebifnei. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. Shebifnei atzmo hu mutam umeshubach ela shepogen taruvato mutar. So right, anything that has a pagum flavor isn't capable, let's even say, of being osir a mixture, even if it itself is tasty. right? But it's like a combination with the other stuff in there makes it bad. This is I'm saying this out. Then it's mutar. Obviously, not there's not a lechatchila here, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'd love to eat some pork. Pork is really bad with honey. I don't know, as we'll get to. And So let me put some pork in my honey and okay. And I'll read the Haggah too. Haggah mihu dvarim hachashuvim kibiria b'chayose behem im inam pigumim be'atzman, right? Things that are like birria and stuff that if they're not piguvim on their own, they maintain their eno batel status. As long as they're still considered a birria or hariyot kabed or davar sheminyan, which we haven't gotten to yet. Even if they are pogem the tafshil, right? I don't know, an ant tastes disgusting in soup, let's say. Actually, I will say an ant tastes disgusting, a bee tastes disgusting in honey. We'll talk about the bee's legs in a little bit. But the bee itself tastes disgusting in honey, and it's a full bee. It's still a birria. That is not batel. But if it's a disgusting bee, if it's been out for 12 months and it's yucky and disgusting, then it's okay. So then it's batel.
How does this work with
But
wasps and figs?
Good. Just one thing about the wasp and figs. The wasp is not in the fig anymore. The wasp is completely dissolved in the fig. Actually, the way I remember, like bring this up a lot, and I remember thinking that if you want to go that way, like, what about the stuff that your cow eats? Like, I mean, if your cow could eat non-kosher food, it's still a kosher cow. So once it's dissolved in the stomach, it's fine. I think. Same thing. The fig people know this the way that certain figs. I don't know if it's all figs. That figs get implanted with. I'm not sure. So the female fig gets implanted by the male is by a wasp, carries it, and essentially dies in the fig. Gets dissolved by the fig, but the wasp isn't there anymore. It's completely dissolved at that point. So it's a good question, but. And anyway, so Josie, even if it were a case where there was still wasp parts in there, it wouldn't be a birria anymore, right? Because it's a cut up wasp at that point. So at the best. So, Noam, you also had a question?
oh, just yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and it could be that we'll be getting into it in Sheer, but so the Ramah seems to be saying that if an insect is pagum be'atzmo, then it would be notentam. First of all, it would cease to be a birya, and second of all, it would be notentam lifkam and mutar. Um,
Yes.
like so. Okay, well, but pagum, the way you translated it, it seems to mean spoiled or like it's become gross, and it's just like I don't know. Like I know there are many cultures that eat insects in various contexts, but like I don't think it would be so crazy to have like a default assumption that in many ways a lot of stam insects are pagum man. Like I want anyway.
There is a great posek who makes your argument, and we learned it actually when we learned birria.
Oh, you're saying Aruch Shulchan?
Exactly, it was one of his
I
arguments.
should have read that entire Aruch Shulchan. It sounded
Yes, not only
fascinating.
was it one of his arguments, he quotes the Ramah right here. Right, he quotes this. He says, "What if
Oh,
it's
he really does? Oh, that's so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah." He quotes this
So
Ramah
that's a
here.
major tzadla akel on checking all insects.
Exactly. That was one of his arguments, and but it wasn't just him. Remember, I think we saw Pichei Tshuva. He also brings this up. Right? He brings up this Ramah here, and he says, "Yeah, if you're disgusted by insects, like they also bring up the thing with the insect in the spoon with the hot water or the soup that you pull the insect out of that because insects are disgusting. Potentially, that wouldn't count. So yeah." Yeah, so it's a major kula that's given that a lot of people use at least to justify not bug checking. So it's it's not saying they're dealing with a world where either you can't fully check for bugs or a world where people just aren't doing it and which are both realities. So Yeah.
But
Ori.
it's definitely a major
Oh, sorry.
cooler for eating in a vegan restaurant. Sorry for
Good. I can
yeah.
give you the chumrot and I can give you the kulot, right? Right. But yeah, it's we're unfortunately not going to do bishul akum in this course, but that's a major piece of it. And yeah, and the other thing, right? Vinegar is another things like vinegar and stuff like that would be major.
That's
Yeah.
the big one that people are have a big problem with because bijalakum you can almost work around.
You can. Bushwalk, there are ways around it. It's really the vinegar question is the major one that I can think of for vegan restaurants. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. If you want to ask me offline, my own practice, I do not. I mean, okay, I wasn't offline. I don't, but I have many people in my family who do, and friends, um, uh, and there are reasons to be making. I've heard of great gedolim uh, who have allowed people to do it. So. Could only in my world, at least. I don't know from other worlds. So. Okay, Ori, you had a question.
I was just going
Yeah.
to say that a pugum insect in this idea would be a dead one,
Uh,
like
as a,
an already dead one that falls
I,
in.
I don't know, a live one could be Pugum too, right?
Well, I know I'm saying, but what the Haggah is making a distinction between two different kinds. So hypothetically, like some insects, like we were saying, you could, as a kula, you could say that insects are pugum in a lot of cases, but what's an obvious example of a pugum insect? And I guess my question was, is that why some people eat like frozen broccoli? Because it's like you just
Oh,
assume they're all dead.
I think well, even if they're dead, they're still, yeah, and they assume because they're dead, they're disgusting. Could be. It's
Then you can
yeah,
rely on pugum. Or
yeah,
if while you're koshering a broccoli, you just want to make sure you, like I've heard versions where you just want to soak it with vinegar so that and you don't necessarily
yeah.
see every bug, but you can make sure that they're pugum, or is that
Well, I
actually
think the
like trying
soaking
to
with
matter
vinegar,
it?
I think it's trying to dissolve it with the vinegar, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. Look, the other, we do have a principle that bugs after 12 months, the invertebrates after 12 months become like they're desiccated. They're not real there at that point. So the whole, it's been a few years. There are a whole bunch of chuvot about it's one of those dyes, red five or something like that, that was made with insects. And a whole
Yeah.
question if you could be makil actually because the bugs are actually over 12 months old. Like they're dried out and over 12 months, and they may not actually have the status of bugs anymore at that point. Um,
And
so
didn't RFK just oscar that anyway?
it's possible.
He didn't have
I have trouble
red
keeping up.
dye.
Yeah. So oh, that's right. Yeah, I think he
Okay.
did. So yeah. So but look, no, these were like, very, there were serious. It's something we should actually. It's like worth doing, and like some of the kosher organizations actually have good articles on these, like the OU, the Star K. If you look at in the modern industrial food world, when they start making all sorts of interesting products out of all sorts of stuff, and and the kosher world has to deal with well, like. Is this actually asur? Is it mutar? What should be worried about this? Gelatin, of course, is another huge one, and also well, cheese, right? Cheese goes back to already the Ramaz dealing with those questions even before that, right? That one's with, uh, but but yeah, like gelatin's a big one and a big debate that shows up. Sorry, Josie, I don't know what that is.
It's another, I think, insect derived color or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so we have to deal with all these questions. And the questions of what counts as lechatchila and what counts as b'diavad. Also, like if it's already made as a product, is it just b'diavad at that point, or is it b'diavad if like it's the only thing I have to eat, or I ate it already, or So okay, good. It's like you can't talk about any of this stuff without talking about all of it. I wanted to see the tithes in Aleph, very important, I think, because it's a nice kind of summary of some of the ideas here that we've talked about. It will help us remind. And then there's also yeah, and there's a shach I really want to see in this one too. Maybe another Taz also, but let's do this first. So let's see. Josie, you Taz Aleph. See you've got an Aleph Shatamo Pagum on the Shulchan Aruch.
Okay, שתם הפגום וכולי, דנותן תם לפגם מותר, דאלפינן לה מגר, דכתיב לא תאכלו כל דבלה לגר אשר בשעריך תתננה. So we derive noten tam lifgan that it's mutar from the what we mentioned before that you should be feeding your ger whatever nevela that you have. Nevela
Mhm.
haruya lager kruya nevela v'she'ena ruya lager lo. So it has to be something that's actually edible. like this somebody that somebody would actually eat, and not necessarily that if you wouldn't feed it to this person, you're not calling it nevela.
Hmm.
Um,
Mishum hachi.
sorry, I was just blanking out there. Mishum hachi shayisor b'ta'arovat harov the heter mu'at hava ki'ilu hu bifnei atzmo. In spite of this, basically, that if we have the Isor in
And
the
not in spite of this,
majority,
the opposite, because of this, Mishum hachi, because of this, right? So,
if the Isor if the Isor is the majority of your mixture and the Heter is small, it's like it was by itself. The ein lo Heter ad nifgam legamre knevela she'ena lechela. And it's not actually permitted until it's ruined enough that it wouldn't be suitable to eat.
mhm.
Aval kol shenasar mechamat harvot lisur kain beisur sheyesh bo mamash ubatel barov heter.
Yeah,
But
hein be'isur, hein be second case.
hein beisur she'enu mamash ela noten ta'am af she'en rov heter dai lo im yeh nifgam kitzat oto atarovet.
Hmm.
Dehalo nehanem etarovot shum ta'am. Um, but but all things that become forbidden because of the mixture is forbidden. Um, whether it's an isur that actually has some physical presence,
Hmm.
um, and it itself is mavatal the heter, or whether
It's mevatel in the heter because it is, if as a pagum thing or something that is pogem, it with as long as it's rov heter, it's batel essentially at that point is what he's saying. He's using that term. Yeah.
right. Hein be'isur she'eno mamash ela noten tam. And whether it's also the case that it's an isur that actually isn't anything other than the flavor.
Mhm. And
Um,
then afshe in rov heter.
Dilo im yed nifgam katsad oto atorah. If it's just enough, if it's just enough to spoil the mixture, the
Hmm.
halona shum tam, because the mixture is not benefiting from this taste.
Exactly. So, right. So if it's mamash, it has to be less than majority. If it's not mamash, right, it's just no tentam, then even if it's not rov heter, right, he says, as long as it's pogem, you're fine. Okay. Those are the two categories. So just to remind you again, if it's mamash, the actual isser is in there. It has to be less than majority for it to just be, as long as it's pogem somewhat, to be batel. If it's just the tam, then even if it's more than the majority, it's batel as pogem. And if it's the majority and mamash, then it actually has to be completely disgusting, so that it's not ra'ui le'achila at all. It's a nice summary, really based on the Rashba there, I think. So
Say this is Mako, more Mako than the Ron.
it is. It's much more Mako than Ran. Yes. Yeah.
What's the Rashba?
Yeah, I think it's the Rashba. So okay. How are we doing? Let's do the Shach in Bet. Because this is an interesting question. At least a question I always have to remind myself of, that this Shach is the way to go for it. Is what if you have a neutral flavor? It's neither the Shavach or the Shvach nor Lifgam. Did you cover this in class at all? This question? All right, good. Let's do the Shach. Shach Bet. Eitan.
Sure. Afilu pogem ktsat. Davar she'eino noten tam, lo l'shevach v'lo lifgam, asur, k'dichtav Beit Yosef ayen sham haga
I think
perek
it's
bat
Hagota. I think it's Hagota Shri, but I'm not sure.
haga okay. Um, perek batra Davod Kochavim uva Torat Chaim Klal
Tor
Pe
Chatat. Yeah, Tor
Torat
Chatat.
Club Pehe Din Kafbet, Beshem Mahari, Ayan Sham, uh,
I think it's Ayin Sham or Zarua maybe, but
or
who knows?
Zarua.
Yeah.
Okay. Venirelli, Raya Mimai de Kaimalan, de Ein Begidin Benote Tam, ואפילו הכי קיימה דגופו של גיד שנימוח צריך 60 נגדו. וכדלאל, סימן ס"ה סעיף ט' וסימן ק' סעיף ב', דאף על גב דאינו כגוף האיסור בלא תערובות. So something that doesn't give flavor that's good or bad is forbidden, as is written in Beit Yosef, in See There, and all of these places, basically. I'm just going to go all the way to Ben Eli.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that there's evidence for this from that which we've established that Gidim don't have any flavor, and even so, we say that they themselves are the goof of the Gid when it dissolves in a tarovet needs 60 against it in order to be batel,
Hmm.
meaning even though it has no flavor, it's still asur.
Yes.
Um, as we see above. Dot, 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 that even though de'eno keguf ha'isur below even though it's not like the
But wait, is it the Dafflegav the Ilika eights Balma? Yeah.
oh I picked up at the total wrong spot. You're
Yeah.
right. Davagav de'eno ela ke'etz ba'alma haTorah asarato kedamrinam beperek Gid hanashe. V'uadin lekol davar isur da'afalgav de'ino noten tam tzarich shishim negdo. V'hachi ita b'Yerushalmi perek yud trumot halacha dalid hada amratz lo leshevach v'lo lifgam asur.
Mhm.
Um, and even though that it's only like it's merely like wood. Even though it's only like wood, the Torah forbids it, as we say in Perek Gid Hanashe. And this is also true for everything that's asur that gives no flavor, I guess. That even though it gives no flavor, it needs 60 against it in order to make it nullified. And this is what it says this is also in the Yerushalmi in the 10th parak of Trumot, Halacha Daled,
Mhm.
that when you say that something is not leshevach and not lifgam, it's prohibited.
Yeah. So good. I will tell you that the Prima Guardian takes him on this, by the way. He thinks that neutral is different from you can taste the flavor, but it neither improves no flavor is different from a neutral flavor, is what his take is. I remember. I have to look back, but right, that neutral flavor is it's neither enhances nor detracts, but it's still a flavor versus having zero flavor at all, which are two different things, actually. But
Seems
but
relevant
oh,
for gelatin, which has no flavor at all.
exactly, yeah, that's uh
but I was gonna say gelatin's a little bit easier because if you're going by the run, it's adding hana'a in texture.
yeah,
So it
good.
doesn't have to be flavor, it's just hana'a.
Yeah, Devar Hamamid. But then there's the other thing with gelatin is that it's made of bone. And if you remember, we said bone, which bone it may be neutral, right? But bone may also be just completely mutar. Uh, so, um, but I've never looked at the Chuvas on gelatin. I probably should at some point in my life. I just remember as I was in ninth grade and Rabbi Shmuel Brownstein, yeah, Shmuel Brownstein was a really great teacher. He told us something, and I don't remember who he was referencing. He said there was some Rav who wrote a tshuva about gelatin, and he said essentially the whole tshuva was it's there's no reason to be Oser, no reason to be Oser except everyone before me is Oser, and what can I do at this point? Uh, so it's that's the way it works sometimes, unfortunately. So um,
There's a community sensitivity to pig, which I'm only mentioning because I think I recently saw that they were like, I don't know if this ended up happening, but they were considering not allowing impossible pork.
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
see that? In the
I said
OU, I think it was.
the OU, yeah, didn't give a hechsher to it at the end. They said all the ingredients in it are kosher. We're not going to give a hechsher to it. My friend of mine, David Svi Kalman, wrote a really interesting article defending the OU on that. It's but worth reading. All the formalists were up in arms about it, right? They were like, "What are you doing? Formally, it's kosher, right?" But yeah, the OU didn't. Even though, and the OU says it's like the same, pretty much the same ingredients as all the other stuff for if it's impossible or one of those that we give hechsher to, right? We give hechsher to it. It's not, but we're
It's a
not going to do it
strange
for this
move.
one. Yeah, yeah. Even though they
I need
do
to
do
read
it.
your friend's response because
Yeah, you
I
should. You should. It's they do do it for bacon bits. Yeah, that's right. Is that's correct, right? Bacon bits are still kosher. Is that the
Bacos are the
so?
soy textured
Yes,
flavor,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
but there were restaurants that were refused. They were told you could not serve something that's called like kosher bacon. You had to change the name to beef fry or lamb fry or
Oh,
something because
interesting.
it was too loaded a term.
Yeah. So
how do
that's
you feel
also
about bacon?
yeah.
I
Well,
can
that
put
that
air
could be
quotes
a.
on it.
I mean, Murray dyeing could be an issue also. So if you label it something that's not bacon, then it might seem more like you're not actually eating something that's
Yeah.
bacon.
But we already have in the Gemara, right, the Marit Ayin issue with fish blood, right? They say just like and almond milk, right, where you leave. Have we done this topic, right? The fish blood, you leave some scales in it, so people know that you're not drinking, cow
But it's
blood or
sort of the equivalent of leaving scales in it is labeling it something different. And
exactly. Well,
yeah,
this
that's
is
not
this
cool.
actually. Yeah, I don't know if kashrut agencies still do this for catering companies, but I think they do. But they used to do this thing like you'd have if you've ever been to a wedding that was like fleisha, it doesn't be a wedding, but take it as an example, and they serve coffee afterwards, and there's non-dairy creamer out there, and they put out the container of non-dairy creamer as a Mari issue to show you that it's not milk, it's non-dairy creamer, and I think that they used to. I don't know if they're still required. Trying to think of what I've seen. I don't usually drink creamer with coffee, but that they're like it used to be a requirement. You had to put it out with the coffee. People still seen this? Is it still done? Yeah, still done. So
Definitely.
yeah,
They lost me though on I think the Impossible Pork question is interesting because the brand Impossible is pretty strong. Like when we talk about the name, two things: the word impossible, but also the brand Impossible is pretty strong on it not being real meat. It's already
yeah,
established, which helps.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
That's
even if you
fair.
say the word pork, it's like you're saying the word impossible. Um, yeah.
Yeah, we'll also get to like
Sorry to take us
labels.
off topic. I
No,
like to
no,
do that.
no. We're gonna get some more into that when we do dairy bread too, and dairy or meat bread, right? You're not supposed to make dairy meat bread with some exceptions. They have to look a certain way that it's recognizable sign, or or they have to be very small. You eat them in one sitting, which is how English muffins get away with it. English muffins are dairy, I think. But this was I think I have to look. I think it's Triangle K that got into this whole thing where they were like, well, we're willing to give hashgacha to dairy bread because we just put Triangle KD on it, and that's it. That's a sign, right? It's in a package that says D. Like, and the other kashrut agencies were really upset about this. They said you can't do it like that way, but they thought the label was sufficient. So, um, yeah. Okay. I know these are good questions. This is we're here to learn Isser V'Heter one way or the other. So, all right. So we did neutral. Let's see. Do I want to do? No. Let's move on to Sif Bet just based on time. I'll read Sif Bet. Hagam zeh ein tzarich shivgon legamrei. Right? We've talked about this a lot. Ela legamrei ad sheyeh katz leochlo. Ela afilu pogem ksat eno oser taruto. Right. So when we talk about this, we said it doesn't have to be completely disgusting, so you can't eat it. It's just if it's in tarovet, it just has to be pogem a little bit. V'yesh mishomer. Actually, I think that's actually what the shach was on. Was that? But okay. V'yesh mishomer dahainu davka kshintarev isur mu'at im heter merubeh. Right. Somebody, the Rashba, says that that's specifically if it's less isur than heter in the tarovet. Aval isur merubeh letoch heter mu'at afilu mechsa al mechsa even 50-50. Eno mimnoten tam lifgam mutar. Then we don't say it's mutar ad shiv gom legamre until it actually becomes completely disgusting. She'ena ra'ui machal adam. Ve'im in sham mamasho shel isur, right? Or what if there's no mamash isur? Ela tamo bevad. We saw this in the Taz. It's just the tam. Afilu isur merubeh veheter merwat. Then even if it's a lot of isur and only a little bit of heter, im pogem ketzat. I think it's im bokem ketzat. Yeah, then it's if it just does a little bit of damage. Veyesh mi shechochech, right? There's one person who protests. I don't know who's machmir about it, as the Rama says. So, but on this question, who is it? I can't remember who it is. Is that the Ran? Yeah, the Ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
How do
Um,
you have Isur Merubah with Ta'am?
it's a great question. um, you know,
I guess this is like a Hanan issue, maybe. Like, let's say I have water or milk or whatever
well, no,
that
actually, no,
has Ta'am, but
no.
it's not itself the
Sorry,
mamish of the Isur. It receives
I
Ta'am.
yeah, I have an answer for you. And it's in the Taz. That's why, I forgot about it.
Okay,
So,
good. I'm glad I thought of it.
or you go read it, Taz Gimel. Uh,
Okay. אפילו איסור
mhm,
מרובה, כגון שנפל איסור גדול לרוטב מעט, וזרק האיסור מן הרוטב. So you've taken out the mamash, but you've left the time.
exactly.
ומבואר בטור דציר של איסור חשוב כגופו.
Hmm.
What's tsir here?
Yeah, this is the juice,
Hmm.
the liquid of the Isser. That's considered as gufo. All right. Mishum hachi.
Right, but that really is mamasho. משום הכי אם מתערב ציר
Yeah.
בעין של איסור להיתר.
Mhm.
ציר בעין של איסור להיתר.
צריך שיהיה פוגם לגמרי, right?
צריך שיהיה פוגם לגמרי, או שיהיה רוב היתר. וכך כתוב
Isser
ב-
beheter har
יש
Isser beheter
בהיתר
haro.
ארוך.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So good. Right. So
But I
yeah,
thought of a
the
different example that I thought is fits in the Shulchan Aruch more, which would be it's sort of like something that is secondarily taken on Tom that isn't a
mhm.
Gufa Isur. Like we've seen many cases like this, or a
Yeah.
pot. We did talk about it in the shir about a pot, which could be assumed to be rove on the thing, on whatever you put in the heter you put in the pot. That could be a ta'am rove.
Exactly. That's the other case that gets brought up is the dishes, the pot, where what's balua in it could be rove, but it's only tam, and therefore we don't care about it. This is why, right? Otherwise, what we you would have to walk around saying, oh, well, the dishes is eno ben yomo, but how much? But the ratio. I mean, the truth is the ratio of the contents of the pot to the volume of the walls of the pot is like never 60 to 1. It's very hard to get that. You'd have to have either like a pot with very thin walls and a huge amount of space that it takes up. There is, I think
But
it's a
rove.
shachs. What?
But
Oh, you're right. It's
rove
rove.
could be
You're right.
kosher.
Yeah, you're right. We only need rove. So your rove is more possible. That's a good point. Rove is more possible. So, but um, so yeah, that the case would be. You're right. But I think the main case would be if you drop Isur into like heter soup, and it's a lot of Isur. Like you drop an entire non-kosher chicken, but it's I don't know what soup tastes disgusting with chicken. That doesn't exist. But let's pretend for a moment that there's soup tastes disgusting with chicken, and such a soup exists. And
Well, could it be a rotten chicken?
yeah, okay, it could be a rotten chicken. Well, if
Then
it's
it's
so rotten
easier.
that you would a rotten-ish chicken, like not so rotten you wouldn't eat it, but it's pogem. And if you throw the chicken out, even though we normally would say, cold in a fakmine, here we don't say that. We don't worry about the fact that it's going to have more of it. So
Hard to
okay.
imagine.
Uh, so um, not cold in the fuck meaning that all of the chicken went out into all the chicken flavor went out into the soup. So okay, so there's one who's chochech. Lomar she'im higdil ha'isur midato shel heter. Yeah, this is the run. So he's saying that if the isur increases the amount of heter, ad she'eh mashpiach yoter kesheochlo begodel midato, because that makes it better because it's now bigger mimashu pogem, greater than its damages that have said tamo by hurting the flavor, by losing the flavor. Asur ad shiv solmi lechol adam. Then it's forbidden until no person can eat it. But okay. That's topic one. Topic two is a new topic. What are we talking about for all these cases? Shipogem mitchilato ve'ad sofo, where it is Hagum from the beginning to the end. Aval im hishpiach ulsof pogam. O pogam ulsof hishpiach asur. But if it starts out good and goes bad, or it starts out bad and will eventually become good, right? We saw this the case with the grisim and the chometz, right? This is what all this comes from, right? Because the whole thing is if you boil it, it's I can't remember which one's tasty. It's disgusting when it's cold and it's taste. No, it's disgusting when it's boiled and it's tasty when it's cold. Is that right? Chometz and grisim. No.
I don't know if that was in one of our background sources. Like it could be a source, but I don't think we were saying it.
No, I
Yeah, no,
think
it is.
it's tastier after it's boiled, I think, if I
Yeah,
remember.
could be. Well, we'll see. It's in the it'll be in the Taz, but and also the Shach, I think.
Uh,
But one of the
uh,
two cases.
so,
Yeah.
sorry if I misspoke, if it was in our sources and I just don't remember it.
Oh
Um,
wait, it's actually the opposite. I just thought, yeah.
yeah, it is the opposite. Yeah, I'm thinking it through. I will be honest, like sometimes I look at the sources, but I always make sure to go through this just like the Tur Beit Joseph Shulchan Aruch and sources. So, it's possible Rav Nachum didn't give it to you. So
We didn't get that far.
yeah. But okay. And then do I want to do the Ramah yet? No, let's do some yeah, the Ramah's going to get into Kalim questions. I don't want to get into that yet. That's a little bit more complicated. So sometimes I wonder if like the Ramah was put in the right place or not. Sometimes some of the times the comments feel like they're in the wrong spot on the Shulchan Aruch. But remember the Ramah didn't write the Mappa. I don't know if he actually what we need to do is we need to find an original source of the Mappa and see how he organizes it. I'm not sure what the answer is. But okay. Anyone ever seen it? Is that possible? Aren't some of you JTS people? Wouldn't don't you have like manuscripts all over the place?
It's po I haven't seen it, but it is potentially possible to see.
Yeah.
They don't usually let us take them home.
Just tell them it's free usher. That's what you're so I've never been in the JTS library in my life. I should probably go.
Yeah, you should totally come. Yeah, next time you're in New York, if you tell us, we could maybe organize a tour for you. I think
Oh,
you'd
that'd
love
be
it.
amazing. I'd be really
Any of you.
excited about it. Yeah. So, all right, let's do some acronym on this. We did the Taz yeah. I wanted to see. Let's look at the Shach Sif Katan Hey. Um, this is I have to find it. What's it on? Okay, yeah, this is Vim Ein Sham B'Mamashot. This is the whole also the same question. If there's no Mamashot Shel Isur, it's just Tam. So I want to see what he says about this. No, you haven't read yet. Please.
Yeah, sure. Wait, but just remind me what Seif in the Shach.
Oh, it's Sif Katan Hey.
Okay, Elatamo.
Yeah. This is the question, right?
Um,
If there's more Isur, but it's only the Tam and not the goof. So
if there's more Isser, but it's only the Tam and not the Goof, then both. I just the Rashba and the Ran agree then that it's Mutar, right?
the
Or,
run also there's a run also I believe the run also but I can't remember right now. Let's the Rashba definitely. So
okay, okay, sounds good. Okay, זה לשונו הרשב"א, ונראה שאפילו נפל לתוך היתר מועט, והכירו הזורקו והרוטב מותר, לפי שאין כאן אלא תמו ולא ממשו. So the Rashba writes that it appears that even if it falls, even if a little bit of falls a little bit within the heter, and you recognize the isser and you throw it out, then the soup is permitted because there's only tam, there's no mamash.
yeah, I just want to change. Wait, no, I just want to change one little thing you said there because I think it's if maybe you said this right. If it falls into a little bit of heter, it could be a lot of Easter. A lot of Easter falls in a little heter. Is that what you said?
If it falls into it. No, it's not what I said, so I appreciate the correction.
Yeah. So okay.
Okay. ואף על גב דמשערין בכולו משום מאי דנפיק מיני לא ידינן, פשטה דאין בו בהנאתו בנותן פעם, אין אוסר תערובתו כלל. Okay, and even though we have this principle that comes up with the klal, that we measure the entire thing, because that which comes out of it. We just don't know how much it's going to be. Um, Nevertheless, here there's no hana'ah with the so it's just not going to oser the taravet at all.
Hmm. Good.
Should I keep going?
Yeah, please.
וכמו שאמרנו בהתר שנתבשל בגדרה שאינה בת יומא, והטעם בכל אלו, מפני שבוודאי ידענו שאין פליטתו בכולו, אלא כל שטעמו לשבח אנו מחמירים בו, שאנו חוששים שמא פלטה עד שייתן טעם בתערבותו. Okay, and as we said, like in a heter that's cooked into a kdera that's in abat yoma, and the flavor is in all of these, since of course we know
Oh no, no,
that
no. I think
that
I
which
think
should
that time. I,
expel.
no, no, wait, wait. I think that tam bechol elu and the reason for all of these, right?
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was confused by that. Yeah, okay. And the reason and the reason for all these is that we definitely know that that it didn't expel its flavor into all of it.
Yeah, or expel all of its flavor, something like that. Yeah. So, but okay.
Uh, Okay. Ella kol shetamo leshavach anu machmirin, but anything that has a positive flavor, we're strict about because we're worried lest it expelled to the point of netinat tam into the tarovet.
Hmm. Good.
Okay.
That's in other words, he's saying, right, the whole cold the fakmine ano enya dinan, right? We don't know. We common fakmine enya dinan. We don't know how much came out of it. That's a chumrah that we use when it's l'shevach, but we don't use that chumrah. This is he's formulating this a little bit differently. Like we don't use that chumrah when it's tam leaf gum, and therefore we're willing to assume it's not majority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, lefichach. Yeah, do a little more.
לפיכך, כל שתואמו כפלה, ואין בו טעם מתירים אותו, בגלל כך שאיסור פגום אין משארים בכולו, אלא בטעמו, בטעמו כמי שאינו, שהרי פגום הוא עד כאן.
Hmm.
Therefore, that which is tasted by a non-Jewish cook, and there's no flavor there, we permit it, and therefore, when the isser is actually spoiled or ruined, we don't assess all of it, but rather just the flavor. And the flavor is as if it's just not there because it's damaged or pagum, and that's the end of what the Rashba has to say.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was just thinking about this shach with comparison to the previous shach we saw, right, where he says a neutral flavor. It's a neutral flavor is it doesn't fall into these rules, but a neutral flavor also is as if it's not there. So but okay, I don't know if anyone takes a shach on about that. It's just kind of a point. So but the upshot is he's saying a little bit differently than the Taz, right? The Taz said, he seemed to really kind of follow the words of the Bechaber, which is the case of where Tamo is more than the heter is when a big Isser falls with a little bit of heter and you throw away the Isser itself and all you're left is with the flavor. And the Shach seems to be saying, yeah, and that's actually really because the flavor is like not really it's we don't follow the chumrah of kol zina fakmine the way we do in other cases. Um, well, maybe at the end he is saying maybe we do, even if we did, it's kind of as if it's not there. It's as if a cook a kfela came and tasted it and said, well, the flavor is not there. So okay, that was a little. I made that look more confusing than it really was, but um, good. Do I want to do that Taz? No, I want to do two a Taz and a Shach on this whole thing of Pogem ve'achar hishpiach, because I think that's a good and important point. So, um, Ori, you're going to be our, and I'm sure your reading is going to be sweet from the beginning to the end, not Pogum at all, but Taz, hey, I didn't even plan that joke. But yeah, was it hey? No, that was
Wait,
Taz,
I,
hey.
I was going to say we could tell. No, just kidding.
Ah,
Hey.
that joke was Pagum. It was Pagum from the beginning to the end. So, yeah, this is the Taz Bamidrim Orim in Hey Bamidrim Omrim Shepogem v'chulei. So it's Pogem from Mitchato ve'ad Sofo, um, and etc. So
Which is something we saw in the Gemara, the
yes,
original Rish
yeah, that comes
Lakish.
from the Gemara. So
Mhm. Kaya Aresha Siman. This goes back on the first part of the Siman. The Katav Batur Beferushish the Hishpiach Ulvasof Pogem כגון חומץ יין נסך שנפל לתוך גריסין צונן והשפיכן והרתיחן ופוגמן. So that comes from the case of chometz yain that fell into the grain. When it was cold, it made it better, but when you boiled it, it ruined it. Ad kan
mhm,
l'shono. This is in the Torah. Mimela perusha de pogem ulvasof ishpiach hu ipcha. The pogem ulvasof ishpiach hu ipcha. So in the opposite case,
mhm.
um,
He didn't give it to you. He's giving the Perush of this
שנפל
case.
לתוך רותחין וציננן. Oh, okay. Imagine if that works also, if you reverse it. וזה אסור בכל שכן מהשפיח ולבסוף פוגם.
Exactly.
And so the reason you can extend it is it's like a kol shekain. It's like even
Yeah.
more obvious.
Because right, obviously
Because
what
it's
you're
ruined.
eating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
the
usher
first
in the
case is
beginning.
exactly. Now you're eating something that was well in the case of if it's hishpiach or sof pogem, when you're eating it, it's pagum,
Right.
right? But it was mashpiach. Now,
You
you
made it
are.
us. Yeah.
It's like yeah, you're like making it better. It's like well, once upon a time it was pagum. I mean, the truth is, I don't know. He doesn't say this here, but if you think about it, there are a lot of things that you cook that actually start out pagum until you mix all the flavors in, and then it becomes good.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Right. ומה שכתב הטור בריש הסימן זה פוגם תערובתו מותר. Um,
He keeps going. He's
כגון
he's still
חומץ
quoting the
יין
Torah.
נסך, yeah,
Hmm.
כגון חומץ יין נסך שנפל לתוך גריסין דמותר, היינו שנפלו ברותחין ואוכלן כשהם רותחין, וכן הוא בלבוש. Um, so there's that case was when they fell in rotchin and we ate them rotchin.
Hmm.
So that would be the case where it was always lifkam.
Exactly. He's like, wait a second. The Torah wrote at the beginning that the case of Pogem Tarvoto is Chometz Yain Nesech into greasing. And it's like, well, we know if it fell in when it was cold and then you boiled it, or if it fell in when it was boiling and then it cooled down,
Right. So
those,
what was
those
the
cases are
case?
usher. Yeah, so it must have been like it fell in hot and you ate it hot.
Well, and
Um,
again, that's because isn't this what we see in the Klal in the Mishnah?
we don't see the Mishnah doesn't say yes, you're right. And then there's
Well,
the case that's
I'm
given in the
saying
Mishnah.
that's
It's
where
the
we
case,
get the
yes,
case
yes,
that
yes.
needs to be an example of
E-
tam lifkam, and it was always lifkam.
exactly. So, all right.
It doesn't work great for the boat, though. The boat
Doesn't great
case.
work. The
I
boat
mean, that
case, you
wasn't
said?
greasing. That wasn't greasing. It was gargarot. So
Yeah, but that was a case of no, but
it
you're
doesn't.
saying that was a case that I
It
think is
doesn't
just
matter. It's a different food, so it's lifkam because it's a different
exactly.
context.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Ela שבפרישה כתב דברותחין וציננן mutar. So the Prisha actually says if you put it in hot and it cools off, that's allowed. מכוח
mhm,
מה שכתב הטור ריש הסימן. והוא תמוה מאוד.
yeah. So the
So
the
strangely,
pre-should
the Prisha, yeah, has that the inverse case where it's going in Behemoth Tam, so it should be okay. But then when it cools down, it's not bad flavor anymore. The Prisha would still not to it. I don't think that's so crazy.
I don't either. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a question of like once it's. I mean, what we are saying is once it's pagum, you don't have to worry about in the future it might one day not be pagum, right? That's clear, right? Like maybe it will improve. Maybe you could add salt. We'll get to. We're not going to do this. Have time to do this case today. Maybe you add salt and it becomes tasty. Nonetheless, at the moment it is mutar. However, there's the question is if it was pagum and it becomes better, is it mutarna? And the Torah doesn't bring up that case, and so the
Mm.
Prisha is following that. But he
Well, we
thinks
see
that
that in the Ikad Amre on the Reish Lakish Gemara. That's one of the
Mhm.
sources we did in the Shiur. The Ikad
It's a good,
Amre, as it is
yeah,
explained by Rashi, is that it could be there's two ways to read that Reish Lakish in the first place. And in the second one, I think it's like you just look at what you have right now. So
exactly,
even if it
yeah.
became good again, well, actually, no. If it became good again, then it would still be usher.
No, no, no. Yeah, you're right. That would still be Usser. That's a good point. I have to look back now. But he's going off the tour, the Prisha. The tour seems to only
Mhm.
have the case where it is hishpiach ulsofo pogem as opposed to, and therefore the other cases are fine. So.
Well, he called it a kol shekain. So to understand, you have to understand why he thinks it's a kol shekain because the Prisha didn't think
Exactly.
it was
Well,
targum.
he thinks the priest is ridiculous that he doesn't think it's a culture again at the end of the day. So, um, okay, that's good. Let's see. And there's a parallel shach to this one. And where was it? It is Zayin in the shach. So let's do Zayin in the shach. Um, but this is ipogem sof hishpiach asur. Um, maybe and this will play out. So this Josie, go ahead and read for us.
Pugemos ולסוף השביח אסור. פירוש אחר שהשביח, פירוש אחר שהשביח, אבל קודם שהשביח מותר, אף על פי שאפשר שישביח אחר כך. כיוון דהשת פוגם הוא. מידי דהווה החסרת מלח,
Hasrat Melach, yeah. And
חסרת
then he's
מלח,
got, yeah, all these
וכמה,
sources.
place. וכן
Mhm.
כתוב,
Good. Oh, you have more?
וכן כתוב ואיסור והתר
No.
הרוח,
Yeah.
sources.
Sources. Yeah. One of them is his own. But Steve Katan, yeah, that's right. Yeah, good. This is what I was saying. So clearly when I was saying it, I was remembering the Shach without remembering I was remembering the Shach. So
This is more of if we're talking about if you add a little bit in it, it's okay, but if you keep adding and keep adding, it gets worse and worse until it becomes
well, I no, I think
right?
what he's saying is if you have in front of you something where something Isser fell in and it is pogam at the moment, and you're wait a second, I know this rule that if the end of the day it will be mashpiach, like I don't know, maybe it's the thing that just needs to have time, or maybe it's a thing that needs salt, or maybe it's a thing that needs whatever it is, and it will also be lishvach and not lifgam. It doesn't
Or
matter because right now it's pogam. I can eat it. I don't have to worry about a future possibility that you can be
exactly.
non-pogam.
So it's evaluate where it is now, where it could be if you let it sit. If you let it sit and boil off,
Exactly. Yeah. So
liquid falls in and it's like, oh God, but if I cook it off, it'll be okay again.
yeah, that actually would be a real thing with wine, right? With maybe the alcohol is making it pagum, and you can boil off the alcohol.
You
But
set it on fire, literally.
yeah.
So
So
the salt case, I really want to clarify this. So if I
mhm.
add it in and it made it worse because now it needs more salt. You see what I'm saying? Like what I had before was balanced in flavor. Now I added this food that really isn't disgusting by itself, but it really threw off the salt balance in my food, so it made it worse. Now I can
Yeah. In
fix
fact,
it by adding more salt, but if I don't fix it, it's basically sachakol gum, and
yes,
that would be mutter.
exactly. In fact, look at you in bed in the shach.
Really,
I'll
that's
just read
really
it.
weird to me because that's you know what that is? That's neutral flavor. If I add a
Interesting.
neutral flavor, I've added volume, so therefore I've messed up my salt balance. But it's like it's not actually negative flavor. It's negative impact, but it's not negative flavor, which is why I think we had that
That
whole
does feel
Ikadamri in
like
Rashi.
the. Sorry, I might be speaking up at weird times because there's a delay, but that feels like the nafka mina between the two memras of Reish Lakish.
Mhm.
right? Where the more Machmir version would agree with you, it's weird, but the more Makil version says it's just like Komochu,
Yeah,
and it's
as it
fine.
is in front of you. And yeah, this is I mean, this one still holds the idea that if once it becomes Shevach, or if it was once Shevach when it was added, then it's Asur, where we're still holding to that. But if it started Pagum, and at the moment it's Pagum, even though it could become Shevach, at the moment, or Shvach, depending on which Hebrew you're using, the at the if at the moment it's still Pagum, you can eat it. It's mutar. And he says, I want to point you to he referenced this, but you'd bet in the shach, right? This is going on the Shulchan Aruch says, right? Even if it's like you drop an isur into heter, it's because the isur has, like, I don't know, some really strong spices in it, and the spices are what makes it pagum. That's enough. And he says in the Shach and Yud, he says, "V'hodin ibcha." Same thing other way. Kishehu pogem mipnei she'ein sham melach or tavlin, because there's no salt or spices, right? Ve'ilu hayasha melach or tavlin karaui. If it had the proper amount of salt and spices, lo haya pogem, then it would be pogem. It is mutar. Kevan da hashta miha pogem, right? Because right now it is pogem. And
It makes sense structurally, but I what I don't understand is like it's an essence of what the food. I guess it wouldn't make sense to the Ran, I guess is what I'm guessing.
oh, because it's midato, it's increasing the midah, and you can imagine cases where it doesn't do
Right, but
that.
also the
Yeah,
ultimate Hana'ah part of it. Like the food is, I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't seem to be in the essence of the food in that case. It's just like the essence of the volume.
yeah. So, um, yeah, sorry, Chiyun, a little bit. This is good. This is good stuff, and Um, for next time, we'll do a little bit more. We'll I don't know if we'll get to finish this up, but I just definitely want to get to bees and honey because I think that's important, and some of the other ending. Well, we want to get to the Kadera case really of the pots for next time. So I hope this enhanced the flavor of your understanding of this Siman, and I should be there, God willing, on Monday. No trips to Toronto or back. And I apologize for missing class because I was hoping to be there, but the weather forced us to leave at a different time than I expected because we were trying to avoid the worst of it and give ourselves more time. So, but,
This is my
yes,
first
cool.
year in like four shiurim that I haven't been on some kind of trip. So
Yeah, you
it's been
understand.
it's nice to be back sitting focused.
So I agree. I agree. Me too. So, Yeshua Koach, everybody, and have
Ashikoa, thank
a great
you.
Shabbos. So.